Decodable books versus leveled readers. Which one's better for reading instruction? Let's jump into it. As a primary teacher for 23 years, I always used leveled readers in my classroom. And in my heart, I truly believed that I was doing what was best for my students because that's what I learned in college. And after researching the science of reading and really digging into the research, I soon began to realize that maybe leveled readers are not the best way to teach children to read. But why? Educators and researchers are saying that they're harmful. So the conversation between leveled readers and the 3 cueing system is basically synonymous. Leveled readers teach children to look at pictures and guess their way into reading. And this in turn meant that children lacked the skills they actually needed to decode a word. Now, with this being said, I don't believe these types of books should not be utilized. However, I truly believe they should only be utilized once students have mastered the English code, which means they know and can decode the 44 sounds of the English language and the graphemes that are associated with those phonemes. That's when I believe all books can be brought in to help children love and enjoy reading. But I believe using decodable books must be at the beginning between kindergarten and first grade. I was a second grade teacher for 23 years. So in my classroom, things were a little bit different. I had students that came in reading on a kindergarten and first grade level, and I had students come into my classroom reading on a 4th and a 5th grade level. The varying abilities in my classroom were tremendous. I used decodable readers in my classroom years and years ago, and I also used leveled readers. But knowing what I know now about the research and what is actually going on in the brain when a person or a child is learning to read, I know decodable books are the way that we need to start our instruction with children learning to read, especially in kindergarten and first grade. Now, I believe when you get to second grade, things might be a little bit different because, again, I taught second grade for 23 years. So I believe there's a little bit of nuances when you get to second grade because, again, the varying abilities were huge in my classroom. You have to make sure that your students have mastered the English code and those 44 sounds of the English language and the graphemes that represent those 44 sounds. And then it's game on. We could use all the books in our classroom libraries. And I don't believe leveled books are the worst things in the world. I don't believe they should be used as leveled books. I believe they should be used to gather information from and to use to enjoy the illustrations and the entertainment of the story, to learn a lesson, to understand the theme of a story. I just don't think they should be used as leveled readers, but I do believe that we must start with decodables. That's where we're going in this video today. We're going to talk about the 5 reasons why you need to start your reading instruction with decodable books and not leveled readers, especially if you're a kindergarten or first grade teacher. You have to really see where those students are. I would absolutely assess them right from the beginning to make sure they've mastered the English code. From there, you can start bringing in different types of books, but they've got to be able to have mastered that code already and the phonemes that are in the English language. Let's get into the 5 reasons why leveled readers are really not the best way to teach children to read. Reason number 1, we have a misalignment with the science of reading and what is actually going on in the brain when a child, or a person for that matter, is learning to read. Leveled readers often emphasize memorization and guessing based on pictures or context clues from the stories. And many early leveled readers, typically levels A through D, have a very heavy focus on predictive text. And this approach contradicts the science of reading, which highlights the importance of phonemic awareness and phonics for decoding words. Let's take a quick look at this book, Do You See? This is a typical leveled reader. And I want you to notice what you start to see. You have 1 line of text. It starts with, do you see my book? Next, it goes to, do you see my cat? Do you see my dog? What did you notice about these 3 pages? Do you see my continues to repeat over and over again. We continue, do you see my ball? Do you see my truck? Do you see my hat? Do you see my cake? Do you see my candles? Do you see my friends? I see a party. There's a couple of things that are wrong with this book. A kindergartner is not going to be able to read most of those words at all. What we need to make sure of is that the children are not reading predictive text. As you saw, each page started with do you see? That's called predictive text. Even though do you see my are sight words, what they were doing was they learned them on the first page and then they knew that it was repeating itself on each page. So they weren't really reading those words. They just memorized the predictive nature of the text and knew it was going to say, do you see? Do you see? That's called predictive text. They weren't really reading those words. They just memorized that they were the same on each page. Now, additionally, when we were looking at all of the other words in the book, like the word cat and the word dog, CVC words, we went into the word ball, we went into the word truck. Truck has a blend, TR, and it has a digraph, CK at the end. Typical kindergartners have not learned those skills yet in the beginning of the year. They have not learned those sounds in the English language. Then it went into hat. Now, hat's a CVC word, short vowel. They may have known that. But what about cake? That's a VCE word, which is a long vowel A with that magic E on the end. They absolutely haven't learned that in the beginning of kindergarten. So what we're saying is that the only way students in kindergarten that really know what those words are on the page is because of the picture cues. So when we say they're using context clues or picture cues, it's because they're looking at the pictures and they're not actually reading the words on the page. So this is a predictive text because the text continues to repeat page after page, and then they're just changing that one word in there. And again, typical kindergartners coming in to beginning of kindergarten, they don't know those sounds, those phonemes in those words. So this is a predictive text, and this is not reading. In contrast, decodable books are focusing on reading because it's based on phonics and a systematic phonics instruction, which means if they're using a decodable book, they're really focused on the sounds that are in that decodable book that have already been explicitly taught because they're being taught in a very systematic way. Let's take a look at this example of the book Bad Max, which is a decodable book. Look at the scope and sequence on page 3. As you could see, it starts with alphabet review and longer words. Those are all short vowel reviews here, as you can see. And then look what you see under it. You see digraphs and then VCE. What that means is that the students are not going to see digraphs like CK in this book or CH or SH. They're not going to see that because they haven't explicitly learned it. They're only going to see short vowel words. That's what they're going to see here. What's important is that when they are focusing on a decodable book, they're focusing on an explicit and systematic scope and sequence, and that they're going in a very explicit order. That's what's so important. So remember, in Do You See, there were digraphs and long vowels and all of these words that were hard for students to read. But in Bad Max, you're not going to see that. I'm going to show you a little bit later on in this presentation. You're not going to see that in a decodable book. They don't bring in those difficult, more high-level skills until they're explicitly taught in a scope and sequence. So that's the difference. Let's move on to point number 2. Leveled readers have an inadequate focus on phonics and decoding, which again is similar to what we just said, but it's really, really clear that we saw that in that first book, Do You See, with the predictive text. Now let's take a peek at another leveled reader called Barnyard Mystery. Let's look at this book, Barnyard Mystery. This is a leveled reader. As you could see on this first page, it's a little bit more complex, and it's definitely too complex for beginning readers. It does have repetitive patterns similar to that predictive text, rather than teaching the essential skills of phonics and decoding. What can happen is that this really leaves gaps in a child's ability to decode unfamiliar words. While this book is illustrated beautifully and you could teach so many skills with this book, it was intended for a kindergartner that's beginning to learn to read. There are multiple words in this book that a kindergarten student would not know the sounds yet, and it's just too complex for a kindergartner to read without the picture support. That's the difference. They're looking at the picture support and they're not focusing on decoding the words. And again, some repetitive predictive text. That's the difference between a decodable book and a leveled reader. So we have to be sure that we're using decodable books in kindergarten because children are not going to be able to read those words. They don't have the skills yet. They don't know those phonemes and the graphemes that represent them. Phonemes are sounds, graphemes are letter combinations. They don't have the knowledge of those phonemes and graphemes yet for a typical kindergartner. Now, decodable books introduce phonics patterns gradually and systematically, allowing students to practice decoding skills with every new letter sound relationship that they're taught. That's the difference. What this does is it builds a solid foundation for reading. Let's take a look again at bad max. Remember, students have already learned all of the 26 sounds of the alphabet, and now they're focusing solely on the short A sound with some specific high frequency words that are used in the text. This is the book Bad Max, as you can see on the screen. Now remember the scope and sequence that I showed you before. What we're using in this book are short vowel sounds. They've learned all of the consonant sounds in the English language, and now they're focusing on short A. So as you can see, when we start reading this book, we've got no, bad Max, yaps my dad. The lad is mad at Max. He nabs the rag. No, bad Max, yaps the lad. I am mad at Max. Max sat on the hat. No, bad Max, I yap. Tad is mad at Max. Max is on the mat. What are you seeing here? You are seeing short vowel sounds on each page of this book with some high frequency words. Because remember, alphabetic principle, they've learned all the consonant sounds. Now they're just focusing on short A. That is the difference. That's what you see in this particular book. You're noticing that there's short vowels in the book on every page, and you don't see blends like the word truck, that TR. You're not seeing that CK digraph at the end of words. You're not seeing long vowel A with that VCE pattern. These are all short vowels with some high frequency words that students have already learned. They've already done some phoneme grapheme mapping using a phoneme grapheme mapping mat to map those irregular or regular high frequency words, because students have to have a nice bank of high frequency words. In order to read a book, they have to have those. High frequency words are words that are shown very frequently in any text, like the word the and is and at, those high frequency words. That's what you see here in the decodable book. So that's point number 2. Let's jump into point number 3, that leveled texts have a dependence on contextual guessing. What I mean by that, going back to the book Barnyard Mystery, in order for kindergartners to decode the words pigs, cow, horse, goat, they had to use the pictures to know those words. They definitely used the picture clues. They may have been able to read the word pigs because it's a CVC word. They might know short vowels. However, cow is a diphthong and a diphthong OW. Horse has the R-controlled vowel. Goat has a long O sound made with the OA vowel team. These are not sounds that an early kindergartner student has learned yet. They absolutely are using more of that contextual guessing here. And contextual guessing can be context on the page, like pictures. It could also be contextual guessing sometimes using the meaning of the sentence, the context of the sentence. So that can also be contextual guessing too. But using picture cues is a big part of those leveled readers that are used in kindergarten and even first grade. They're focusing on really using the pictures to figure out those unknown words. And that's not what we want to do. That's not what we want to use. We don't want to promote the habit of using pictures and contextual guessing to know what those words mean. We want them to decode the words on the page, sound out those words, and we want to limit the reliance on pictures. We want to absolutely limit that. We want them to focus on the words. Now, in contrast, decodable books, even if we're looking at Bad Max, can they utilize the pictures to help them? Of course. But when they're looking at the words and the teacher is focusing them on the words, focusing on on the letters, really pointing them out, having students put their fingers under those words to really focus on them. That's what the teacher should be doing when we're looking at a decodable book. We want to constantly prompt them with thinking about what that first letter says or what that first letter sound is, and start to sound out the rest of the word. We want them to focus on decoding, not looking at the pictures of the book. It could help a little bit, but that's not the goal. The goal is to get them to feel confident that they're actually reading the words on the page. And that's what we want to do, and that's what we want to promote using decodable books. Next point, leveled readers really promote a lack of confidence, and it really creates frustration in readers. Let's take a quick peek at this book, Helping with the Laundry. This is a leveled reader again. Introducing books like this, especially to a kindergartner, will create that lack of confidence and will create some frustration, especially if the pictures are covered in the book. And I'll show you what I mean when we're looking at this book, Helping with the Laundry, because there are words in this book a kindergartner would not know if those pictures were not on the page. If we look at this book, Helping with Laundry, if the pictures were covered, a kindergarten student would absolutely not be able to decode these words adequately. As you can see right here, students would not be able to decode these words. There are some high frequency words here like you and Ken, but we've got help. We've got the word laundry here. If this picture wasn't there, do you think children in kindergarten would know that word is laundry? It's a multisyllabic word. It has that aw sound in laundry. It has the ending Y that has that long E sound. They would not know that. Just the word clothes alone is a difficult word. Typically, we don't say clothes by really pronouncing that TH in the middle. These are words children will not know. Bright, colors, clothes. There's the word soap, shoes, warm, water. A kindergartner would not be able to read these words if those pictures were covered on these pages. That's the difference. They wouldn't be able to know these words on this book. And that's the important part. When you're thinking about level readers for a kindergartner, they would not be able to look at those words and sound them out. In contrast, decodable books provide a sense of achievement because children can successfully decode the words that they're looking at the page. They already have the skill set to decode those words. What I'm saying is the success with decodable books continues to build their confidence and really fosters a really positive relationship with reading because they feel more confident, they feel more successful. That's what decodable books will do, especially for your kinders and your first graders. They should be used in second grade if children have not mastered the English code yet. If they haven't mastered the English code, you need to assess those students, see where the gaps are in their learning, and then make sure that you're attacking those gaps and teaching those students those phonetic sounds and those phonemes explicitly and systematically that they don't know yet. That K2 foundation must be strong. The last point I want to talk about is how leveled readers really creates slow progress with reading fluency. It's really important that when you think about using leveled readers, we're not using them with kinders and first graders. We're not using them with second graders that haven't learned the code yet. It's not about using leveled readers anymore. We're not doing that to teach children to read. We understand what's going on in the brain now. And now we've got to use that research. We've got to use the science that we know and make sure that we align our practices with that. I did it for 23 years using leveled books. Again, granted, I taught second grade, so I had a variety of levels of students in my classroom, but I still use them. Knowing what I know now, I'd like to go back and make sure that I was ensuring I was following an explicit and systematic scope and sequence, and I followed it and made sure the books that I was using followed that scope and sequence. But know better, do better. Leveled readers will create that slow progress in reading fluency. In contrast, decodable books ensure that children build their reading skills systematically, leading to much, much faster development of fluency and comprehension. It might seem slower in the beginning, but by the end, it will seem really fast, I promise. As they become more adept at decoding, they can tackle more complex texts with ease. And that's really the goal of using decodable books. It's to make sure they become really adept at decoding so they can continue to attack more complex texts. Let's take just a quick look at this book called The Black Flash. It's a decodable book. This is a book on digraphs. SH, CH, TH, those are digraphs. I want you to think about the skills that they learned all before this. They systematically learned all of the short vowel sounds, and then they started in on this book with digraphs. What they're going to do here is they're going to focus on words that have digraphs and short vowels, and they're focusing on high frequency words. As you could see, these skills are systematically brought into the books that students are reading that are decodable books. That's the difference. Looking at that book, The Black Flash, they're focusing on digraphs after they explicitly and systematically learned all of those short vowels and all of the consonant sounds, SH, CH, TH, those digraphs. And that's what you saw in that book, The Black Flash, because it was explicitly and systematically taught through a phonics program and a systematic scope and sequence. And that's the difference. I hope this gives you a little bit of understanding why decodable books are really the gold standard when it comes to helping children learn to read. It's just so important to start with a systematic phonics instruction that your decodable books are aligned with that scope and sequence. That's the most important thing. Your decodable books must be systematically aligned to your scope and sequence. If it doesn't, we're going out of order again, and we don't want to do that. So it's really important that whatever decodable books that you're using in your classroom, they're aligned to your scope and sequence. It's not about what are the best decodable books on the market. It's about which decodable books align with your scope and sequence. If you are looking for decodable books, I have 16 free decodable books for you in the description below. So definitely download those 16 free books. You can also see the explicit and systematic scope and sequence that our Developing Decoders books align to. They actually align to UFly's scope and sequence, and they're on UFly's decodable text guide. So there are 16 free books for you below, right in that description. So if you're looking for new decodable books, if you're using UFly, great. These will match perfectly because we wrote them to align with the scope and sequence, which is really important. If you are using UFly, it's a great way to get some new decodables in your hand to align with the scope and sequence from UFly, which is an incredible program. Download those books below in the description. I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope that you really try to bring some decodables into your classroom instruction and start moving more towards a structured literacy approach to reading instruction, especially now because we know so much about the brain and how the brain actually learns to read. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget your free books down below in the description. And don't forget to click that little subscribe button and that little bell next to it so you're alerted every time one of my new videos goes live. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you so much. Happy reading. Bye for now.